Hey, Huckster here. This is a reply to scrapgoldbass on his video about the fact that he believes in Satan and the fact that I don't. In James it says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempted he any man. I'm referring to where you're talking about Jesus being tempted in the wilderness by the devil. The next verse in James is and we all know that Jesus was fully man. It says, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. You know, it's funny how that Satan goes from way back in Job, only being able to do what God allows him to do, and then suddenly here he is able to offer Jesus all the kingdoms of the world. Jesus was such a special person that he could have had all the kingdoms of the world. He was being tempted and drawn away by his own lust and enticed, and he rejected all of that. It had no effect on him, but he had to know that he could do all that. You know, Jesus first rebuked Peter and his passion contrary to God's will, and then he said to Peter, for you, Peter, are not mindful of the things of God, but of the things of men. He didn't say, whatever that is possessing you is not mindful of these things. He said, you, Peter. Peter was carried away in his own passions that were contrary to God's will. In Corinthians 5:18, it says, now all things are of God, who has reconciled us to himself through Jesus Christ and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Now all things are of God. Even Job was aware of that. If you go back to Joseph, the very people that sold Joseph into slavery were suddenly at his mercy as he became the second most powerful ruler of the Egyptian kingdom. Instead of being bitter, Joseph recognized God's hand through his entire situation. And he testifies of that in Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 through 21. Joseph said unto them, do not be afraid, for I am in the place of God. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Now therefore do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. The key to this is God meant it for good, even though the people that was doing it to him meant it for evil. God was in control of that, not a supernatural being. And once you recognize that all things are of God, all things are of God, forgiveness becomes much easier, and bitterness is dispelled. People can come to you and mean things in evil, but in truth, this was the hand of God who meant it for good. There's no supernatural being, Satan, that's doing this stuff. God is all. In the New Testament, we are told that the law and the Jewish system of animal sacrifices was enslaving humanity to sin. And in the Hebraic manner, and their way of speaking, this evil, this demonic force of the Jewish system of animal sacrifice was overpowering. Jesus tells them, "For sin shall not be a master over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace." The Jewish temple had in fact become an obstacle between humanity and God, enslaving both Jews and Gentiles. It was a system of sacrifice that could never be delivered, or could never deliver us from our sins. Because it's impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. And it's for this very reason that in Hebrews 9 we're being told in a quite straightforward way that there is no way to God as long as that Jewish temple was standing. It was an evil force that had to be removed. Now, when you ask about the demonic possession, Moses laid out the blessings and the curses. And when Jesus came along, he was removing those curses. And when he came to that grave spot there where he removes that demonic possession from that one that answers, "We are legion." At that time, there was no place where the mentally insane were hospitalized. There were many of them there, and that's what this guy is telling Jesus. There's many of us. We are legion. There's many of us here. If I drink alcohol, I'm influenced by that spirit that comes in me when I drink, and the more I drink and the more I drink, and if I become an alcoholic, I'm totally consumed by that demonic spirit. When men are influenced, and you know that when our translations of the Bible speak of being possessed, the word should be influenced. I believe that's what the people during Jesus' time knew. That was what was being said was being influenced. There were evil influences that opposed God. They were the adversaries of God. They were the Satan. When Jesus says the devil is like a roaring lion, if you go back to Zephaniah chapter 3, you realize that those princes of Jerusalem were like roaring lions. They influenced people. They came along behind when Jesus spread his word and scattered the seeds. They were Judaizers that came along behind and gathered up those seeds and gave them false teachings.